And we're back. So, I'm in the mood for what we Irish people call some different plastic ratchet screwdriver. I have several of them. Time to have some fun. So, plan here is I'm going to take this ratchet screwdriver apart. I don't need a ratchet apart at all. I'm going to make a small wooden handle because I don't have a small screwdriver, and this will give me the ability to use these lovely replaceable bits in it. So the handle will start off as a square, and I'm going with a very traditional style handle, so I'm going to turn that square into an octagon. So it's a very, very traditional style. Simply I take the corners off, and then we will taper this baby down. Okay, look. First things first, destruction. You use a screwdriver to fix the screwdriver, apparently. So, now I have my nice big base, but don't need this part. So I'm just going to cut that off with a hacksaw.
Yeah, so it's all going well. Not. I cut out the 10 minutes or so of swearing. So here's really quickly how to put a blade into a junior hacksaw. Victory! So now that I have this nice wrap, I'm going to bring it over to the angle grinder and flatten two sides. So the idea here is that by flattening these two sides, I can create a matching hole in the handle with the same flat sides. This will stop it turning under the torque as it's been used as a screwdriver, and the epoxy will hold it in place.
Okay, so now that we have our shank cut off and the edges squared, that's still quite hot. We need a piece for the handle. Luckily, I have a box full of pieces for handles because I've made hundreds of handles over the years. So let's see what we have here.
So what you want for a handle is an ash or a hickory or a maple, something that is hard and springy and absorbs all of the shock treatment that you will get in a handle. Now in this case it's only a screwdriver, so it's not going to get a huge amount of that, but I'm still going to use an ash here.
I like to bring this piece.
And I just move
straight.
past all the messing
It's
around
fairly
looking
good.
for the piece.
So left the box away for another day. Time to get shaping this baby. So I want this to be a short palm screwdriver. So this is an example I have. I'm going to use that as my reference point for how much handle I'm going to put on here.
So here I'm going to use a set square to mark all around this piece to give me a stop point when I cut my shoulder lines. Normally I would recommend having a face edge and face so that you are always working from the same edge, and this is the best way to get around. But a good tip is to use the pen like I am on the edge of the previous line to make sure you get the crispest and most accurate cut around.
Okay, so I shall make a couple of marks here. My faces. I'll bring it down, make it smaller. I'll strike those lines down. And then I still have the length of the piece of timber and cut out this excess.
I'm just going to apologize for the next couple of scenes because it was raining like hell where I work, and it's a tin roof, so there is a lot of background noise.
Oh, always very PPE. So the saw left some pretty rough marks. The outside here is cut into shape, which I expected. So now I'm going to bring it down to a nice square with my plane. This is my 4.5 smoothing plane. I love this baby. So when planing, there are many fields of ways of saying this, but basically, if it'll focus, you have an up and a downhill, or with or against the grain. So you can see the grain is going this way. So we want the plane to cut across the back of where it's coming up, which is with the grain. So you're going the same direction the grain is. Because if you go in the opposite direction, you have fibres sticking up like this, and your blade will go under the fibre and break it out. So always remember to go with the grain, or you do it the other way, downhill. Yeah.
So here I'm just marking what the square edge will be, a small engineer square, and I'll plane down to that edge, giving me a nice square to work with.
For nice square sector, I'm trying to make it an octagonal. So easy way to find the centre of anything that's roughly square and rectangular is to draw a line across the diagonals like that and like that. That's pretty much all it's going to be your bang on your square, your centre. Then it's time to go back in time, get your old school compass, put it on that centre mark, adjust it to the width. This is a pretty wide. Oh, the lead is not playing ball, but well, not most of the way around. So you mark your circle. Now you can eyeball these lines, or if you have a little set square, it's really handy. And we're just going to mark those 45s. So where the circle intersects the diagonal line is that's where you're going to put your cross line. And then you'll have pretty much so a perfect octagonal shape. Now to transfer those lines down the sides and start planing.
You don't need to see me doing this on the other two sides, so I'm just going to jump straight to the planing. Wait for it, and magic! So, yeah, I just repeated the same process for 4 sides. Or 8 in this case, actually, because this is an octagonal, but you can see I have a nice octagonal shape.
So, when I plane this, I bias it towards one side, means it's thinner on one side, so these flats are wider. So, the reason for that is I'm going to put a copper ferrule here to stop it splitting, which is standard for wooden handles. You can see here on this chisel is a ferrule here, which is a piece of metal at the bottom, just stops the wooden part splitting. That'll come in handy later. So, this is my top. It's not sharp, it's not good on the hand. So my first step is to bevel these edges so they're nice and smooth in the hand. And then I'm going to work this down to a diameter to suit my ferrule, which is just going to be a piece of 3/4 inch copper piping.
What I'm doing here is a technique as well as woodworking itself. It's known as a thumb gauge, and after a while you kind of get so good at it that it sometimes is quicker and easier and just as accurate as using a square. From this angle, a lot of this trimming is going to seem quite dangerous, but I assure you to remember that I am a trained idiot. All joking aside, I'm very conscious when I'm doing this kind of pairing to make sure my hand is well below the path of the chisel. For this angle, it does look like it's about to hit it, but it's nowhere near. I'm always working up and away from my hand, which is good operating procedure.
At this point you might be wondering, why hexagonal? Why don't you just leave it square? Well, hexagonal feels a lot better in the hand. It kind of fits in there naturally in this part of your hand. But the main reason is hexagonal things don't roll. So if we take our hexagonal handle and I drop it, as soon as it hits a flat face, it stops. So you take this cheap chisel as an example, and I drop it.
Remember what I said earlier about being a trained idiot?
Our hexagonal handle stops. By the way, I don't recommend doing this with expensive chisels. These were like £7 for the set. But point proven.
Yes, indeed, I am a professional idiot. What I'm doing is marking for some scoops that will go down to the ferrule. This is both to thin out the material and to give a finger point to put your finger, obviously, and get a bit of traction. Now, later on when I fit the ferrule, I will recut these scoops because I underjudged them on this first one. So, this bit is pretty simple. Centering the piece of brass, in this case actually it's a piece of copper, on my X line, and I'm going to work down to that line. That's where I'm going to put in the copper ferrule. But ultimately this would end up being a little bit off square, so I probably should have done this with the compass to as close as I can and finalize it the way I finalize it later on. In this bit you can see a bit clearer I was talking about keeping my hand out of the way.
So now we have our shape. It's not perfect. It's nearly there. What we do is we get our piece of ferrule material. In the case, this is a piece of copper, and we file the inside of it to give it a sharp edge. So then what we do is we line it up on our lines. It's a really deep imprint that we can follow down this. Now I'm going to push this back a bit further. We're going to come down maybe about 1/4 of an inch
6 mil.
with a fine tooth saw, following that shape left by the ferrule. This is a screwdriver, so it's not getting high impact, so it doesn't need quite as wide a ferrule as here. It's about ordinary an inch. This is just to stop ash splitting when we hammer in our barrel that we flatten 2 sides of to stop it spinning. We put that in with epoxy.
More magic. What I've done here is I've actually the outside edge of the copper pipe to help it cut down. You have not to go too mad with this because what you can end up doing is splitting the entire handle, but it does give you a nice sharp edge to work to, and it's beautifully tight when they're done. This little bevel just helps me work down towards the ferrule. It also takes any sharp edges off that would be left so my hand doesn't catch them. It gives me a good point to work from here as I work towards here as I add those grooves back in. I lost the actual footage of fitting the ferrule here, but I just hammered it down and then leveled it off using a fine file flush with the top of the handle where it comes through. It's very soft copper and just using the actual shank to mark how deep I want to go, and just marking it on this drill bit with a piece of masking tape. Now, this is not a perfect method, but for this it will work. So this initial hole is going to be the width of the shank itself. I'll do a smaller one, which will be equal to the width of the flats. And I'm about to mess up in 3, 2, 1. There you go. It caught as I was putting it in, but I filled this later on with epoxy and sawdust, and it's really strong. And as you can see, it's pretty tight. I'm testing it with a hammer there, and I ended up having to use a vice grips to get it out. This is just a really cheap two-part epoxy, but it does its job really well. With all these epoxies, the important thing to remember is to mix them sufficiently. So you can see here, this becomes a really milky colour. That's pretty much right. And I apply this to both the hole that the shank is going into, the shank itself, and like I said, I use it then. I just even put some sawdust on it, just to fill any existing gaps. Here I am about to just shove sawdust in around all that epoxy, tap it in with a piece of wood just to make sure it fits down there. Once this sets, it'll be rock hard and it'll fill all those gaps beautifully. This is everyone's least favorite part of the job, which is sanding. So I'm going to keep this gloriously short and cut really quickly to the beauty shots of the oil going on. So here I'm just using linseed oil, which is quite popular for handles, and I always have on stock for stuff I'm doing here. And you can just see how that Irish ash just comes to life when the oil comes in. You can see all that grain just pop beautifully. All that's left now is to use it. I know this, and I found so many uses for it since I finished it. So yeah, I highly recommend you make one. And yeah, wait till the next scene where I kind of go through all the things that went wrong and all the things I'd improve on for the next one. It's been a joy. Must have tea. I was super tired for this, so sorry for the low energy.
Okay, this is the part of the video where I critically analyse what's happened. There's a saying in our family, the man who never made a mistake never made anything. So every project, everything you work on, you have an opportunity to learn. So this is our multi-bit screwdriver with the custom handle. So right off the bat, which you can see in the video, I went a little bit loose on the holes. It's holding fine, the holes for the shank. My plan was to chisel that out to get it really tight, but I couldn't get the exact diameter drill bit, so I ended up a little wide. Now I've used this, I've dogged this since I made it the last couple of hours, deliberately seeing if it'll break, and it doesn't seem to. Again, on the inside here we have two flat surfaces that are tight, and also keying it like that gives the epoxy a really hard place to grip, so it really hasn't went
Weeks.
anywhere. I can even demonstrate it here on the front of this. You know, one of the hardest nuts to take off, is the one on the front button. And like you can see, I mean, the button came off, the screwdriver didn't. So this is what I'll use this mostly for, really, is for adjusting, you know, my planes and stuff. But yeah, I mean, in terms of proportion, I have big hands, so it fits beautifully in my palm. You can kind of see it there. And my fingers are pushing on those nice slants we put in, so I can get a lot of traction in. But it's a bit bulky and ugly. So if I did it again, I might dome this a bit more, put in another little groove, but chances are now I have this, I'll never do another one again. But you can learn from my mistakes, make it a bit more less utilitarian. And this is the major one here, is if I push down the barrel, is it's off center slightly. Now, this doesn't bother me, but that's just really, as when I did that initial cut down with the copper pipe, I was slightly off, and I went slightly off with the drill. You can see there where I hit it slightly on the second cut for the thinner part of the shank. Besides that, it's pretty good. So Go out there and make some noise. Have fun. This shit isn't fun. What are you doing it for?